Hello, beloveds. Welcome back to another episode of the Sacred Sisterhood podcast. And I felt so called that I needed to come on here today to sprinkle some nourishment and some love to whoever needs to receive this message. So I've spent the last week, the better part of the week, deep in my own underworld as I've been premenstrual phase. My subconscious mind opens up and really reveals to me parts of me that maybe I wasn't fully aware of, or old stories that are still playing in the background that are ready to release with my blood flow. And this is always very much a shamanic death and rebirth time for me. Every time as I approach my period and as I go into my menstrual phase. And I'm going to get into that more in a second here, but as I've resurfaced today feeling uplifted and alive and revitalized and illuminated, as I stepped into some of my community circles on Facebook and checking my Instagram message box and, taking the pulse with the sisters in the Circle of the Womb Temple space, I realized that many of us have had a very trying week. And so wherever you are, I want to just honor you in any parts of you that maybe you're feeling quite raw and vulnerable and triggered. And I'm just going to witness you and hold you in that space and taking a deep breath. And just reminding you that you've done nothing wrong. This is merely our purification phase that we are in as humanity, as a collective. And those of us that are really tapped into the energies, we will do a lot of the heavy lifting in a sense. It's kind of like when I grew up in Canada in the prairies of Alberta. So, when we would have huge snowfalls, the snowplows would come out and plow the roads so that people could get out with their vehicles to drive to work. And so when you look at it that way, as light workers, as way showers, as empaths, as priestesses, us that are committed to doing the work, we are doing the snow plowing, the heavy lifting. We're clearing the way so that those whose souls have chosen to stay asleep at this point of time in the collective ascension journey, so that when they do wake up, it's not as much heavy density that they're working through. They're basically going through a fast-paced wormhole through ascension, because there's those of us who have been down in the trenches, cleansing, purifying, clearing, and so forth. So I just want to honor you for your commitment to the work and your commitment to continue to show up for yourself and to lean into the uncomfortables and to just give you some love and encouragement if you have been feeling yourself very much in the depths of your underworld lately, that you're not doing anything wrong. You're not going off track. You're actually aligning deeper with your purpose. You're aligning deeper with your true soul's essence so that more of your soul codes can open and awaken and activate. And I just really honor you for the work that you're doing on yourself and the light that you're anchoring, because the energy that you're holding is a big deal. Those of us that, all humanity that are alive right now, one of my teachers has said that the best of the best are here to assist with this transition that we're in, and I find such truth in those words. We've been training for many, many lifetimes for this very point in time, and I think it's important that we step back and just look in awe at what we are seeing. The Great Awakening is upon us, and we are ushering in the golden age. We're ushering in new earth. We're ushering in a new way of being, and that is no small feat. And so we all have lived many lifetimes. We've all collected codes and wisdom and medicine to prepare us for this very point in time. And so, yes, we're going to go through these death and rebirth cycles. We're going to go through these purge and purifications. And it's all because what happens on a micro level happens on a macro level. What happens within the purification that happens within us helps ripple that out through the collective. Our healing is all healing. And so we're really just being called to a deeper sense of surrender when it feels like we're in days and days and days of fatigue, days and days and days where we feel like we're at battle within ourselves with old stories coming up of unworthiness, of self-doubt, of lack, of limitations, of just not enoughness. Old stories that were not safe, where you know, as they come up again, you're like, what? I thought I've already dealt with this. You have, but there's always deeper layers to go into, and you are one of the warriors who chose to transmute energy for the collective, and so much that we're clearing isn't just our own, it's the collective's. And so you are a light warrior, you are a light raiser, and I just want to really honor you in that space and tell you how loved you are and how supported you are. And I'm right there with you, sister, in the trenches. This week has been very intense for me. Let's see here. Where to begin? Okay, so last Friday, I was preparing a bunch of food dishes and so forth because we were having a big dinner the following day with a friend. We were doing like a Canadian and American style Thanksgiving because we did nothing for Canadian Thanksgiving this past year, and with American Thanksgiving being next week, we were about to go on full lockdown, so we decided we would have our American friend over who lives here alone so that we can do a little bit of a Thanksgiving for her. I think in these times it's important to, take certain people under your wings, people that are alone under your wings, and just give them that Sunday dinner family vibes, especially, if you're an expat or you live away from family. The comfort of family is something I so miss right now, living abroad. Just that comfort and that safety of being able to just stop at mom and dad's and have a cup of coffee and just chill out on their couch, and so I am working on creating that for myself here with my husband and my dog and, other expat friends. So anyways, I started to notice, there was all these dishes that we were making that I don't normally make, like Brussels sprouts in the oven with Parmesan and garlic. And I was going to do this like tofu steak for myself, and this vegetarian gravy and so forth. And I was finding myself getting kind of stressed out by the whole thing rather than enjoying the process. And I'm like, this is weird. I was noticing like I was restricting my breath and like wanting to like write all these notes of exact order of what time these things needed to go into the oven so that everything would be prepared. I'm like, whoa, what is this? And so that night, I dropped into a shamanic journey in which I was taken up to my cosmic family to receive a healing, and they had shown me some memories from my childhood that I had forgotten about. And they were memories of my little girl version of myself wanting to try to grasp and tighten my grip on things to control what I could control as a means of safety when things felt uncertain. When I was young, both of my parents, my dad was injured, which kept him from being able to work long term. He was on long-term disability, and so I think I was in kindergarten when that happened, and my mother was diagnosed a few years later. She went blind, and so as a young child, I felt a lot of uncertainty by having my parents go through these struggles and these limitations. And so I developed kind of this obsessive compulsive need to always make my bed before I got on the bus for school. And I would like be late for the school bus if it meant my bed was made. And it was just this like incessant thing that I had, and also like keeping my room extremely tidy, which you might be thinking like, oh, I wish my kid would keep her room tidy. But it was a means of, I would control my own little inner environment because my outer environment I felt out of control. And then I was also shown a memory when I was in my teenage years, my late teens. I had already moved out. I moved out when I was 16 in with the bad boy, my rebellious years. And I was living in a home where the person that I with, he was surrounded by a lot of violence. There was a lot of disruption in his family. It was a very toxic relationship. It taught me a lot, but it was very toxic. It was very abusive. It was very unhealthy. And his family too were incredibly toxic, where, a Thanksgiving dinner could easily end up in cops coming to the house and someone getting arrested type thing. So during that time, I too I was shown how I would become extremely obsessive and anal about how clean I kept my house. And we had 2 dogs at that time. The dog that I have now, actually, Lila, and we had a chocolate lab, and our backyard was mostly dirt. Most of the lawn had been ripped apart. And so our dogs would track in all of this dirt, and so my house was always dirty. So I would spend 2 to 3 hours every single day cleaning it to get it to a point that felt safe. And I had forgotten about these things until I was shown this in this healing with my cosmic family. And they had said that there's a part of me now that is coming up to surface that is really gripping on, that is resisting surrendering. And this is in the means of my feminine armor, the feminine armor that we hold around our hearts and around our wombs. And so as I've been de-armoring myself, as I've been softening more into my feminine and really deepening into my feminine truth and activating my divine feminine blueprint, which is very much a core piece of the work that I do out in the world. But of course, our own journey never ends. Our journey is what allows us to have the keys and the codes and the medicine to activate and assist our clients. So this story was operating in the background of, there's this masculine sense of needing to control certain outcomes that was still kind of popping up, but it was an undercurrent in the background. And so my cosmic team showed me this and showed me how, I'd tighten my stomach and kind of restrict my breath when I was really trying to plan everything and organize everything for making the food for this big dinner we were having. And so I thanked them for showing it to me, and I decided, okay, well, this period, because I was at the cusp of my period, I'm going to consciously shed this need to control, because I trust that I am safe, and I'm going to surrender into the Great Mother's arms and surrender into the flow and trust that I'm in complete alignment with my highest timeline and so forth. And then the next day, my meditation, I saw the triangle of the water symbol on the back of my neck. And then it started to spin clockwise, and it shifted into the flower of life. And then I felt like this channel of energy come down and plug into that spot on the back of my neck, which is the back of your throat, right where you're, the base of your skull. It's a very, very powerful portal point to receive energies and messages from our guides. And so it started spinning, and it turned into the flower of the life. And I felt this channel of energy plug in, and it felt like water was flowing through me. And so I'm like, okay, I'm flowing. And I realized that I was being retemplated. And so what I mean by retemplate, it's kind of like templates are your software of all of these codes and frequencies of your belief systems that make you you. And so we have series of templates that are installed in our energetic field. And when we get retemplated, it's like that entire series of frequencies that makes that belief system is shifted and lifted, and a new template that's more aligned with your higher self is then installed. And so I was receiving these new codes, these new frequencies, and then the next day I was completely flatlined. I think I had fallen asleep by 10 o'clock the night before, which is very early for me. I slept until 10 o'clock the next morning. I got up, felt completely messed up. I was only awake for about 2 hours, laid back down, slept for another hour, woke up, took Lila for a walk, and then was out for another 2 hours. Got up, spent a little bit of my evening, and then went to bed early. And I was just completely like groggy and out of it. And my body was really sensitive. My senses were really stimulated. And so I received during that time, just surrender. You're being retemplated. You're integrating this shift. And then I spent the next like 5-6 days being in complete grog land, like barely being able to function. I was so exhausted. And that's what many women that I've been speaking to, even the sisters in the Circle of the Womb Temple, have been talking about, like an extreme amount of fatigue this week. And in this fatigue, like I just had to surrender and give myself permission that I wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to create. I was just going to be with this energy and receive it. But then those old, like, kind of thought patterns were starting to pop up, because already the week before I'd taken off quite a few days because it was 11/11 portal. I'd taken my birthday off. There was all sorts of different things. I think full moon, or maybe it was new moon. Don't even know what day it is anymore. And so I was starting to feel like this guilt starting to pop up. It's like, okay, I should be working. I've taken like a week off, All these old things started to pop up. Meanwhile, I've been waiting for my period. My period should have arrived. The time of recording is Saturday. My period should have arrived Tuesday, a few days after new moon. But instead, I would receive spotting and then nothing, spotting and then nothing. And we've been doing this dance for days. And I was kind of like beginning to spin out about it. I'm like, hey, where's my period? This is so abnormal. Like, what's going on? And then I remembered, your whole purpose of this period is to surrender control and just surrender to the flow, so you could really expand your feminine frequency. And there I was trying to like control my body's, like wanting to be like, hey, just bleed. And so even today on Saturday, I still have not much of a period. And I just feel like there's quite a lesson in this of just releasing control, surrendering into it. And so, I just really wanted to share that story with you, because I feel like it would greatly serve so many of you that, when we don't feel safe, when we, and so much of it is deeply embedded in our unconscious, or like our inner child selves. When we don't feel safe, when we don't feel like there's certainty, we can grasp. I keep wanting to make that a word. Grip and grasp, and try to control outcomes and just try to attach. And right now is a time about letting go and letting ourselves just kind of surrender into the abyss and into the void, and allow ourselves to unfold and dissolve what no longer serves us. We're in a deep, deep retemplating process as a collective, and it all starts within ourselves. So I've also been channeling goddess Isis, a lot the last few days, and she's been delivering a lot of really potent messages to assist humanity, assist myself in my own journey. And a tool that I want to give to you when you are like in your deep states of purification, of purge, you're letting old stories go, you're letting old templates go. Oftentimes old stories will come to surface to our minds and start to play tricks on us to try to hook us back in. But that's just like these old identities releasing from us. So how you can kind of help shift and work through that, if you're experiencing, for example, if you're preparing yourself to, maybe share your sacred workout into the world, and you're having a lot of fear around sharing your truth and sharing your story and sharing your work with the world, tap into, okay, so what is this fear? Okay, it's the fear that my voice will be misunderstood. And then what's underneath that fear? What's the fear beneath that? I'm afraid that I'm going to be judged. Okay, and what's underneath that? I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my friends and my family. Okay, and what's underneath that? I'm afraid I'm going to be alone. Okay, what's underneath that? I'm afraid that I'm going to die alone. Okay, and what's underneath that? And just keep going deeper, 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 deeper. Even if the fear doesn't sound rational, just keep digging, 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 digging. And then once you pull up all of the, uncover all of these fears that have been operating in the background, you'll get to a point of peace. And then it's okay, I've expressed what my deepest, darkest, truest fears are. And when I look at it from a rational point of view, I know that it's not true. So I witness it, I love it, I observe it, and I release it. It can be very, very powerful. And something that Isis has been speaking about with helping to surrender and letting go is so much of it has to do with the physiology of how tight are you holding your body, how constricting are you of your breath. And so bring awareness to your body and recognize, okay, yeah, I got some tightness in my hip. I'm going to breathe some energy, bring some love and presence into there. Okay, notice that I'm really holding myself back from a full breath. I'm just going to take some deep belly breaths. And she also speaks about how, it's... Here, I'm actually just going to read it to you. That might be easier. Okay, so my question for her was, Isis, how can we surrender control and lean into the abyss of unknowing? What are your tips to support us in doing so, as this is the way of the feminine? And she said, so many of you are holding your body rigid. You tighten your stomach, you grip your vaginal walls, you try to control and manipulate the outcome when the outcome is part of the gift of infinite possibility. The outcome may be your wildest dreams beyond what you have ever thought to dream before, and yet you grasp on what you think you want, because perhaps that's what you wanted months ago or years ago and have never achieved it. So many of you don't trust your bodies. It's time to just trust your body, soften your shoulders and relax, and let everything be taken care of, because it is. You are in a collective pause right now to make way for the energies that are coming. This pause will allow the dissolving of what no longer serves, as there is much that needs to dissolve. There is much that is ready to let go. Then I asked her, Isis, is there going to be a solar flash this winter? And she said, yes, but there will be many solar flashes. You already have been receiving solar flashes. There won't be a great big grand event like many have said there will be. Otherwise, it will be too shocking and overwhelming for the bodies and the nervous systems of those that have not been preparing their bodies. There will be a slow, gradual build-up to a peak point, which you're already in the midst of. Okay, which I felt huge resonance with. I have felt like the intensification of the purification we've been going through very much has been influxed by blasts of solar activity. So I asked her, how can we prepare ourselves for the window we are in? And she says, well, you have to let go. Be willing to detach from everything you thought you were. Let source work you. Let source light fill you and illuminate all parts of you. There is much within your shadows that you are afraid to look at, but there's nothing underneath that fear other than love, acceptance, and peace. Yes, slight discomfort while you look at the shadows. Just like a child walking through a dark basement, they feel afraid, but once they turn on the light, they realize there is nothing to be afraid of. Enjoy this time of pause so many of you are in. Enjoy this sacred breath. Enjoy the rooting down and letting go and falling away. A tree feels completely relieved when all her leaves are gone. You would think she would feel bare, raw, exposed, and vulnerable. But that is not the case. She trusts in this bare period of time for the potential of spring around the corner to blossom into full fruition. Every death is a chance to rebirth. For you light workers and way showers, share only when you feel called to share. Share only when you are guided. When you feel that strong guidance to rest, sweet child, rest. Give yourself permission, as the work you are doing in energetic realms is massive. We ascended masters are amazed by what human bodies are doing at this time. We are amazed by the shift that is taking place. Though we are helping behind the scenes to usher the way, we also take moments to pause in awe of the unfolding. Listen to your body's intelligence as to what she is guiding you to eat. If she's asking you to fast, fast. If she's asking you to cleanse. If she's asking for more grounding fruits and vegetables, eat that. So then I asked, how can we not feel afraid when things seem so chaotic and uncertain? Well, have faith. Have faith that the tree will bloom again. Have faith that there is a dawn after the dark, because there always is. After every night, day comes again. That's the law of nature, and such is this time. It only seems dark because of the way media has portrayed it. Many of you are still quite plugged into the matrix that is designed to keep people afraid. When you plug into higher dimensions that are available to you now, you will feel that there is nothing to be afraid of, that all is being illuminated and uplifted. Just like the ego death you went through this past week, where you were feeling swallowed up by mind's chatter of self-doubt and that you were doing something wrong, you woke up today feeling full of light, full of love, illuminated and uplifted. Your purification allowed you to hold more light. The planet is purifying so she can hold more light. What is your advice to those that feel afraid? How can they feel less afraid, I asked. And she says, unplug the screen and plug into nature. Spend the day there to absorb the magic that is. Magic is unfolding around us at all times. You just have to lift your eyes to be able to see it, feel it, and experience it. It's in the subtle energies. It's not this big, earth-shattering, booming voice from above that says, hey, new earth is here. It's the soft, subtle frequencies that envelope you every day. It's the sweetness of the fruit's nectar and the softness of the wind. So this came through today, and just such powerful and potent words that were transmitted that I'm sure will bring comfort to you and just wrap you in a big blanket of nourishment and love. And I'm just honoring you, sister, for where you're at. And if you are feeling like now is a time to really seek out support, to go into a mentorship container, to really hold you in your unfolding, hold you in your unraveling, is so that you may align deeper with your soul's purpose, deeper with your soul's joy, so that you may activate yourself in your original divine feminine blueprint, so that you can shift out of that self-doubt, shift out of that priestess wound and witch wound, and just really align with what it is that your soul came here to do. I have opened up private mentorship options. These are all codes that I carry, as these are my greatest initiations, my greatest fires of initiations that I have walked through and continue to walk through. You know, you always keep going deeper. It is a lifelong journey. So if you are curious as to what I have to offer, you can always send me an email at coachmaryens@gmail.com. I'm still using my maiden name with my email. I haven't changed it yet. So that's coachmaryens, ENNS, @gmail.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Mary Wright. My website is maryjcoaching.com, which you can click on the work with me. There is an option on there that isn't, there is an option available for Starseed Alchemy coaching that's not actually available on my website. So you can reach out to me to find out more about that. But yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. I'm Mary J Coaching on Instagram, and I believe you can also find me just through the show notes as well for wherever you are listening. So I'm going to end my Saturday on that note and get this transmission out to you, beautiful sisters, so that perhaps you can snuggle up with a cup of tea on your Saturday evening under a warm blanket to receive these words and this love. And we're in it. We're in it. It's such an honor to be walking this path with you. I love you. Thank you for listening. We'll chat soon.